Hi, my name is Norm Kern, and I'm your host for Access MC, Access to Motorcycling. If you're a person who likes motorcycles, this show is for you. Our show takes you to both amateur and professional motorcycle events so you can see them up close in detail. Since you're already an enthusiast, we won't bore you with a lot of talk and other stuff. We want you to enjoy the events. In addition to a wide variety of competition events, we'll take you along on road trips and even do repairs and maintenance now and then. This time we're going to dirt country, which is a racetrack south of Blanchester, Ohio, for a Hare Scrambles race. This race is like a motocross in some ways. In fact, most of the course is a motocross track. The rest of the course runs through a woods, though, like an enduro. The riders in all size classes start at the same time in a big long line. The race runs for 2 hours straight. The rider who makes the most laps in his class wins. Most of the year, families go to dirt country for the whole weekend to camp out, ride, and race. It was a little too early in the season to do that this time. This race was held on February 24th, 1991. The weather had warmed up long enough to thaw the ground completely, so the course is best described as swampy. Bert Dunlop, who rode in the race, joined me to help describe the race action.
Main places we're having problem is in the back section with the trailer. You'll see it back there, it's a big house trailer. Make sure you go around it at all costs. Follow the arrows, there's no parade lap. It'll be 2 hours and 1 lap. When you come through, you'll see your barrels. Come through slow and make sure you have eye contact with your scorer. You have to make sure he writes your number down. Don't rely on him, rely on yourself. Go slow through here so we can get your number. We're going to need everybody over to the school bus in about 5 minutes. We're going to start at 12:20. Is there any questions? Yeah. Okay, guys, head on over to the trailer. We're getting ready for the start.
Okay, Norm, here we're getting ready for the start of the Hare Scramble. And one of the things you want to watch at the start is how everybody's all full of energy and how fast they go. And now watch at the end of our show today how people are really dragging after 2 hours of riding in the mud.
Well, it looked to me like some of them were dragging after the first lap.
That's true.
Okay, here we're picking up. It's about 2/3 of the way through the first lap. You can see, here's your current leader, but as you look at the other riders, you can see they're already starting to get covered with mud. As you'll see, this is one of the easier parts of the course.
There weren't too many easy parts on that course that day. It was all rutted up in mud and swamp, and the jumps were a little bit dry. They could have been real slick, which would have made it even harder, but the way it was that day, it was real difficult after even the first couple of laps.
How long did it take your goggles to get dirty?
The start.
Oh.
They get dirty real quick in a race like this, and it's hard to keep them clean. It's hard to see.
How often did you swap?
I went through 3 pair of goggles that day, and I rode a couple laps without any.
It was worse at the beginning because the riders were closer together?
Yes. And everybody was going faster, the water was flying, the mud was flying, and gets in your face and gets all over and into everything. And then after a while, when you start slowing down because you get so tired, then it's not quite as bad.
You think it dried out at all?
No, it didn't dry out at all.
It just got stirred up a little bit.
Yeah, it made a good soup. One good thing about racing on a muddy day, when you fall, it's a nice soft landing.
Well, I suppose you could look at it that way. Now watch this next rider here as he pulls at his helmet right now.
What he's doing is he's advancing a plastic film across his goggles that will clear off the mud, and so he'll have a clear strip to see out of on his goggles. You'll see a lot of riders doing that during the day today. You can go through a roll of plastic real fast.
What's that guy got wrapped around his handlebar?
Swamp grass.
That to help turn the throttle?
Help it stick is about all it does. In a race like this, as you can see all the swampland around there, you get swamp grass into everything.
About the swampiest place on the course. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that? There's different ways to get through there.
Well, there was probably a good 200 yards of swamp like that around that section there. It went up back around out of sight, out of camera range there. And the tricky part of it was some of that water got pretty deep, and then there's some ruts in that water that are real deep too. And you'll see later on some bikes stuck in those ruts. And it's all just a matter of a couple of inches. You can go through one part and it might only be 6 inches deep, and you move over a foot or 6 inches and you're into something that's up past the axles on the bike. And it just happens real quick. So when you go through it, you have to keep your momentum up so that you don't fall into one of these ruts or get stuck there like this rider did.
Some of these guys went through the trees. That looks like a pretty safe way to go.
It's the safest way to go, but I don't think it's the fastest way to go. If you can cut straight through the swamp there, and you know, if you can remember a line through the swamp that worked for you once.
Oh, what's this?
That's the plastic film, and sometimes the mechanism breaks, and then you get this big long trail of plastic behind you, and you got to take it off.
I was going to say, that came out real fast.
Right.
Well, it looks like the water was the fastest way through here, but it also looks like it was the riskiest.
Right. And you decide, the rider decides for himself, according to his ability, what he thinks he can handle. If you don't think you can handle going through the water there and you think you might get stuck or whatever, then a lot of those guys went around the outside. But someone like this rider here, he knew that he could go through it, and you can see he stays on the throttle pretty good through there. He's chewing up a pretty good rooster tail there, and you can get through it real quick and pass a lot of people. And then again, sometimes you don't get through it very quick, like he didn't.
Yeah, he was one of the lucky ones, though. At least he didn't get stuck.
Right. And if you fall off the bike in there and the bike goes underwater, your day's done. He just keeps the carburetor and the air cleaner out of the water right there. If he'd have been in a little bit deeper, he would have drowned out the bike, and that would have finished his day right there. So that's one of the risks that you take when you cut through a water hole like that. But all day long, going through that swamp section, you never were sure whether you were going to get through it real quick and easy, or if you were going to be there for 5 minutes trying to get your bike out of a hole.
Well, I noticed it changed a lot from lap to lap. A line that was good on one lap wasn't necessarily good even if you went in exactly the same place the next time you came around.
That was generally true. It changed a lot during the day. As people get stuck in different lines and stuff, they dig holes, and then you don't know it's there, and you come around the next time you hit that hole. And then you just have to file that away in the back of your mind that, hey, I can't take that same line next time or else I'll probably get stuck.
Okay, this is back at the corner that in the previous shots was just out of camera range.
The whole idea going through this is to try and keep the bike moving as fast as you can, even though these guys look like they're going real slow, which some are really going slow, but it's real difficult to get any speed up in those types of conditions.
I noticed they keep the back tires spinning to keep it clean.
Right.
You get a lot better traction if the cleats are clean when they come around.
Right, a lot of that has to do with your tires too. There's different types of tires that you can have when you're racing. You can have mud tires, which have a real large gap between the lugs on the tire, or you can have a hard pack tire which has a real small gap. And a hard pack tire in the mud just packs up with mud, and then it hardly gives you any traction at all, and it's real difficult to ride a bike with hard pack tires on in a race like this.
Whatever kind of tire you have, I think on a day like today, a new one would be a good idea.
Right. A good edge on the lugs on the tire really helped. He found one of those ruts that were just under the water. You can't quite tell where they're at, and he was lucky enough to find one. Now after he leaves, in about 10 or 15 minutes, that rut will be filled with muddy water again, and it'll just be smoothed over and you won't be able to tell where that's at.
Yep.
Anytime you ride through a swamp, they're always full of little surprises.
How do you get chains to survive in an environment like this?
Well, you just got to keep them cleaned out and lubed, and after every race. If you don't maintain your chain, it's not going to last very long, and these types of races are real hard on the chains. Mm-hmm. Most of them nowadays for enduros and hare scrambles use O-ring chains, which helps keep the mud out of the rollers and stuff on the chain, and that helps them last a lot longer too. But if you don't maintain them, they're not going to last long. You can tell this is getting later on into the race. You see people stopping, taking a break to rest, to look and see what other people are doing. You see people falling down a lot more, they're going a lot slower. This is really the killer part of the race. That last hour, it takes a lot out of you.
One thing I've always noticed is that going slower is not necessarily safer either. You're more likely to fall down when you don't have any momentum.
Right.
This is on the more of a motocross part of the course, and you can see the going there is a little bit easier.
That was Jeff Lowry right there. He won the race that day. He's one of the top Hare Scramble riders in Southern Ohio and one of the top enduro riders. Notice the guys that are still going fast are the ones that are standing up on the pegs a lot. The guys that are sitting down are pretty tired, and you know, they're trying to rest as much as they can while they're going around the track, but the fast way is to stand up pretty much.
What's the advantage to standing up?
Well, your legs take a lot of the shock, and it helps with your balance on the bike. When you're sitting down, it's a lot harder to move around on the bike.
And you need to shift your weight quickly to keep your balance.
Right, especially on muddy days.
Yeah. Especially on a course like that.
You never know what's going to happen in the mud. Bike tends to take off in odd directions at odd times.
You can really tell the better riders in this particular shot, because whenever there's a clear place, they immediately speed up.
Right.
If you're tired, you won't speed up for 30 or 40 feet if you know you're going to have to slow down again pretty soon.
Right. When you're real tired, you just tend to try and keep a steady speed up and not do a lot of accelerating and slowing down, which takes a lot of use of your arm and leg muscles to, you know, hang on and try and keep from falling off as you speed up and slow down. This course today was just slightly more than a mile long, which is really short for a hare scramble course.
Yeah, usually they're 4 or 5 miles.
Right. A lot of places will have 4, 5, 6 mile course laid out, and so then you don't see the same thing as often during the day. I think we did over 20 laps today. Most hare scrambles have a lot more wood sections, and some don't use a motocross course at all. But if there is a motocross course at the facilities that is giving a hare scramble, they'll generally use some of the course. But usually there's a lot more trail in the woods and tight woods and some hills to climb and a lot more varied terrain.
I noticed a valuable technique on this particular section right here. When you come out of the woods area into that watery area, it's important to hit it square.
Right. If you hit that water hole crooked, chances are you're going to, get a good drink of water there.
There's a good example.
That's it. He came off of the hill there and his wheel was turned and he landed front wheel first and it just went away from him in that mud.
Yep.
Getting a good bath like that in the summertime isn't bad, but in February, if you really notice, as soon as you come to the next straight section and you pick up a little bit of speed when the temperatures were in the, I believe they were in the low 40s that day, it doesn't take long to get a good chill.
Looks like it was a little bit drier back in the woods.
Yeah, for the most part, it wasn't too bad back in the woods.
But like you said earlier, that was only a very small part of the course.
Right. But then the woods has its own obstacles too. There's a lot of roots from the trees that if you hit them wrong, the bike tends to follow the roots instead of going where you want it to go, and you can fall down pretty quick back in there if you hit those roots wrong.
Tell us about the barrels here and how you check in at the end of each lap.
Okay, the barrel is where they keep track of the different classes. There's several barrels there, and each barrel will have one or two classes that it's responsible for. So as you ride up to it, it'll tell you which barrels for which class, and you always go to the right of the barrel on most races.
And you make sure they get your number.
Right. They write down your number to verify that you completed one lap. And then on the last lap, when the leader comes through to finish the race, they mark down the order of everybody coming through the barrels there at the end. And that way they can tell who finished ahead of whomever in the different classes.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good race.
It was too dusty.
Too dusty?
What happened at the beginning?
Oh, I jumped the start and then backward. Because I got a good start, I thought. And then all my tails were already muddy after going through the first corner there. So, oh, that's what I get for being too anxious, I guess. But I think I got second place, so I'm happy with that. First time out on my new bike.
Yeah. Hey! Is this muddy or what?
Yes.
Big smile, big smile. Man. And wasn't that nasty, that one section right over here? Yeah. That's where you picked up all that stuff. That swamp was bad. Yeah. I saw you back there by that swamp a couple times filming.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he was having a ball. That was the fastest way through it every time. Man.
That's almost unrecognizable there.
What is all this hair you're growing out of your wheel? I like this. This is something new?
That's from the swamp, man.
Oh, I know what does. It balances your wheel, Mike.
I was in water once up there like that.
It's wheel balancing.
I thought I was never going to get out.
I'm impressed.
Oh man, I'm wore out. I was ready to quit at the halfway point after 1 hour. I got a flat tire, and I had to come in, and Jane pumped it up and made me go out again.
Good girl.
Hare Scrambles riders are a friendly mix of motocross and enduro riders. Wet conditions, of course, favor the enduro riders. Dry conditions permit higher speeds, and that favors the motocross riders. Since everybody runs at once for 2 hours, those who wanted plenty of action are satisfied. Also, those who don't like waiting around for their turn to race, like in a motocross, are happy too. Spectating is much easier than at an enduro since the course is in a confined area and there is a parking lot. It's easy to walk around the course until you find a good place to watch. I hope you'll tune us in again next time. So long for now.